I'm in Shenandoah National Park. This is Tanner's Ridge, mile marker 51. There's my little red car. There's a little bit of a parking area here for about 4 cars. Looking up that way is Big Meadows. This is Skyline Drive. And we're going to start out hiking down this way. Round that bend there is Tanner's Ridge Overlook, and we're going to continue around the bend until we find the old Tanner's Ridge Fire Road. And we're going to hike down the west side of the mountain a little ways on that fire road, and then we're going to jump off and see if we can find our way down to Naked Creek. Those vehicles parked down there are park rangers. So let's get started. The elevation here is 3475. I'm down to the bend. Up there's where my car is. This is Tanner's Ridge Overlook. Looking to the west. Three-tenths of a mile into my hike. I'm down to 3430, and this is the Tanner's Ridge Fire Road. Up there's where I came from the overlook and the parking. So you just come down here 3/10 of a mile and turn right. So let's head on down this way, and first stop down this way is going to be an old cemetery. Six-tenths of a mile into my hike. I'm down to 3290, and this is the Tanner's Ridge Cemetery. It's a pretty good size one. It's in good condition too. After we check out the cemetery, I'm going to continue on that way down the fire road for another, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile. Over there's the Appalachian Trail. There's the fire road heading up towards Skyline Drive. That's where I came from. And right there's the Appalachian Trail heading northbound. So let's go over here and we'll check out some of the residents here and see who we have. I see Shiflet, I see Meadows, I see Weekly, Cave. One and a half miles into my hike. I'm still hiking along the Tanner's Ridge Fire Road. 1.5 miles and down to 3,090 feet. And I'm down to a set of coordinates now where, according to the old maps, there used to be a road that headed off in this direction and eventually ends up down at Naked Creek. So I don't see any trace of the road at all. But so I've got some coordinates that I'm going to hike to, and we'll see what happens when we get there. Maybe as I get in here a little ways, I'll start to see the trace of the road. Maybe not, though. 2.4 miles into my hike. I'm down to 2930 elevation. I haven't taken a whole lot of pictures because this has just been a pure bushwhack. I'll explain when I get home with the map talk, but I'm not going to recommend anybody else try and come down this way. But anyway, up there, just a little ways, I noticed coming down here that this area is like really overgrown with underbrush, like what happens when you got a clear area and then people abandon it, and then it, you know, the undergrowth starts up. Up there, there's 2 or 3 areas that are terraced, and then right here, just a little below that, is what's left of a spring well. So that's a pretty good clue somebody lived here. I'm going to mark the location of this spring well on the map, and in the meantime, my main objective at this point is bushwhacking my way down there to get down to the creek. I'm going to go back a different way than this. This is just too hard. I've been looking at my map, I've been looking at my GPS, I've been using my compass to hike along, compass bearings and stuff. And I'm about 1/10 of a mile from the creek in that direction. So when I get down to the creek, I'll figure out where I am. And then I'm going to hike downstream for a ways looking for some waterfalls. .5 miles into my hike. I'm down to 2830 elevation, and finally found the headwaters of Naked Creek. I checked my GPS, and I'm upstream of the waterfalls and stuff, so that's good. So now all I have to do is just follow the creek downstream till we get to the falls. There's looking upstream. Here's looking downstream. So I'm gonna start following this thing downstream, and I may have to go wide from time to time over there up on the hill a little ways. If it's too swampy, I'll have to go wide. But otherwise, I'll stay close. And when we get to the waterfalls, I'll try and get some pictures of that and mark the locations. .1 miles into my hike, I'm down to 2620. And right over here is where the feeder stream from Huckleberry Cliffs comes in. I know you can hear it. Maybe you can see it over there. So we're about 2,600 feet, so I'm going to keep going downstream. I think when we get down to around 2,300, we should be down to the first set of falls. Here's the first set of falls. It's just downstream of where Huckleberry Cliffs feeds in. No more than 1/10 of a mile from my last video. And on the east side over there, there's no way that you're going to get a good look at it, I don't think. And then over here on the west side, it's not easy getting down here either. You have to go way around over there, and even there it's pretty steep. So anyway, I'll get a few more pictures from here. Nice set. I'll mark it on my GPS. Looks like it drops off there again. Here's the lower section of the first set. That's the east rim over there, east side rim. This canyon's pretty steep. There's where I came from, up there. This is the third set of falls that I found. I'll mark this one on the GPS too. Four miles into my hike, I'm down to a 2280 elevation, and I decided I'm going to stop here. I'm downstream of the second set of falls that's indicated on the topo map, so I don't have time to go any further downstream today because I've got a heck of a hike just to get back up to my car. So I'm going to set up shop between that tree right there and this one over here with my hammock, listen to Naked Creek, and eat some lunch, drink some water. Okay, well there's my little setup for lunch and relaxation here. It's my ENO double nest hammock and the usual setup for daytime stuff. I got my 2,500 pound mule tape, And that's a sheep bend. And over here I got my pack hanging up, and I got my little trusty Smith & Wesson airweight revolver, if I can get it back in there one-handed, and 38 special. And I got my jacket. I was perspiring heavily, even though it's only about 45 degrees. Got my jacket airing out here. So I'm gonna eat a little lunch and sit over here and watch this beautiful stream go down through here. And I got to formulate a plan for getting back up the Skyline Drive, which is, I don't know, about 2 or 3 miles up that way. It's going to take a while to get up there. This is pretty far out. Okay, kids, here we are in the hammock. I'm resting my feet a little bit. Whew. I think I picked the hardest possible way to get down here today. It's kind of fun though, but man, talk about steep terrain. I'll have to do a somewhat lengthy map talk to try and recall what the terrain is here, but if I had to characterize it in one word, I'd say steep. You know, like there's the other side over there. It's going practically straight up the side of the mountain. Naked Creek, right there. And that's looking downstream. One of these days I'm going to go all the way down to the boundary, but that's probably another mile or so. And it's taken so long to get to here that I'm going to have to rest up a little bit and then start heading back up. I'm going back a different way. I'm going to study the map some. And I came down here on the west side of the creek, and I'm going back on the east side. And I'm planning to go back up along the Huckleberry Cliffs area, and that'll put me back up on Skyline Drive on an overlook, and then I'm going to have to hike north maybe a mile to get back to my car. But I think that's going to be easier than the way I came down. But it was kind of fun because I found an old homestead, or at least I found evidence of one. There was a lot of terracing with stones, and then there was that stone spring box that I took pictures of. So somebody obviously lived over there on the west side of the creek. Four and a half miles into my hike, I'm sitting on a rock getting my breath. It's pretty steep here. Here's what the terrain looks like. Down there's the creek. Over there's the west side. And down that way a ways is where I came from with my hammock and eating lunch and stuff. It's about another 8/10 of a mile, more or less straight up the side of the mountain, back to the overlook. And then from there it's fairly flat, walking Skyline Drive back to my car. Woo! This is some climb right here. .8 miles into my hike. I'm back up on Skyline Drive. The elevation here is 3270, and that's Naked Creek overlook. It was so noisy there I couldn't do any narration. They're blowing leaves and they got 2 tractors out there cutting grass and stuff. I picked a route up that put me up on Skyline Drive a couple tenths of a mile, about 2/10 of a mile south of here. And so now I'm not quite sure about the distance. It's probably 3/4 of a mile back up this way to the north, back to my car. So if I see anything else noteworthy, I'll narrate it. Otherwise, this will probably be it for the video. This is a map of the hike. It's 2 quadrangle maps taped together. The upper part of the map is Big Meadows, 1994. That covers down to here. And then south of there is Fletcher, 1999. This red line here is Skyline Drive. And this area here is Big Meadows. This is mile marker 51. If you're coming down from the north, you just come down, you go past Big Meadows, and as soon as you get to this bend in the road, there's 2 different places you can park. Right here is where I parked. There's a real small little pull-off parking area there for about 4 cars. If you come around the bend just a little bit further, you'll get to the Tanner's Ridge Overlook, which is here. You can park here also, but my preference was to park here. So I'll park there and then come south, hike south on Skyline Drive about 2/10 of a mile down to here, and this is the Tanner's Ridge Fire Road. This is just a dirt and gravel road. It goes down the west side of the mountain, and it will take you completely out of the park if you follow it far enough. So you start hiking downhill until you get to here. Now this is Tanner's Ridge Cemetery. This is a real nice cemetery. Tried to get some pictures of it. And this dotted line right through, coming through here, is the Appalachian Trail. Okay, right there. So I tried to get some pictures of that. After that, I continued to descend along this Tanner's Ridge Fire Road, and you'll know you're close to the jumping off point here when you get to this hairpin bend in the road. You come around the bend, and when you get to here, this is just a set of coordinates. When you look at this map, you'll see this was shown as a dotted line road or trail. I just, using the Terrago tool, I just got the coordinates off the map, and when I got here on Tanner's Ridge Road, I didn't see any sort of trail at all, or road, trace of an old road or anything. So I just started bushwhacking along a more or less constant elevation and watching my GPS and so forth. Eventually I got to this point right here. Now when you get here, this is also just a set of coordinates. There's no trails here. And this is up on a saddle area. And it is a little bit cleared out there. You can tell that the tall grass and stuff has been trampled down where people have been hiking there. So then originally I was going to come down this way and follow what looked like an old road or trail, but that doesn't exist anymore. So what I did instead was, from here I just started coming down the side of the mountain. Now this area is white because back in 1994 this area was cleared out. Well, it's not so cleared out anymore. It's pretty overgrown. So you just start bushwhacking your way down towards the creek. And when I got to here, this is where I found the terraced land. There was 2 terraces there, and then just below the terracing I found this spring box. So I mean, that tells me that somebody used to live here, because they wouldn't put a spring box in the middle of nowhere. So then you keep coming on down until finally you'll find your way down to Naked Creek. Now this is actually the east branch of Naked Creek, but I think everybody just calls it Naked Creek. And then you just follow. I hiked on this side, the west side over here. Maybe a year ago I hiked starting down here a little ways. I hiked over here on the east side, and I didn't like the view from this side, so I decided to hike it on the west side this time, and I like the west side better. So if you're gonna do the hike, I would find a way to get over here on the west side. I would not recommend that this bush unless you're really comfortable hiking on a compass bearing and maybe using a GPS. I would not recommend this because there's absolutely no trail. Anyway, you get down to here, you follow Naked Creek on down. Now when you get down to here, this is a Huckleberry Cliff area, and you'll notice there's a little blue line here. There is a feeder stream that dumps in here. So when you get to this point, you're real close to the first set of falls. I marked it right here on the map, and then that's actually two falls, one right after the other. And then when you get down a little further, there's another major set of falls here, and then another right here. Now, to get to these falls, what will happen is as you approach the falls, you'll be you'll be forced to go wide around like this to get down to the bottom of the falls, and then you can hike along the creek some more. When you get close to this set of falls, you're going to have to go wide around like this to get down to the bottom. So then after that, I continued downstream to here, and then I stopped here, threw up my hammock, had lunch, and then getting down to here was so hard and so slow that I decided to go back on the east side. Now again, there's no trails, so I was hiking compass bearings, and if you'll look at this is extremely steep, but at least there's no undergrowth here, or not much. But this is like a 45-degree incline coming up here. I ended up, oh, and when you're coming up this way, stay away from these cliffs because they're super rocky, so you want to be south of the cliffs when you come up this way. So that put me on Skyline Drive about here, about 2/10 of a mile south of this Naked Creek overlook. Now this is another spot where you can park, and you could bushwhack your way like this down to the creek and then come down if you want. Or you could park here and hike south on Skyline Drive until you cross over this feeder and then come down like this. There's another possible way to get down there. But anyway, once I got myself back up to here, it's just hiking along. And this turned out to be, I think in my video I said I guessed it was 3/4 of a mile, but it was more like 2 miles. You have to hike past Milam Gap and on around the bend, finally back up here to Tanner's Ridge Overlook and back to my car right here. This is not a hike for the faint of heart. This is difficult hiking. You're hiking, you're bushwhacking, you're using your compass, you're using your GPS, you're using your wits to navigate terrain recognition. You're using your more advanced hiking skills to hike this hike. But if you like that kind of stuff, it's a nice hike. The scenery along Naked Creek here is just gorgeous. It's beautiful, especially this time of the year because the leaves are off the trees and you can see all the mountains and stuff, and you know, get a sense of being in a real deep canyon here with this stream coming down through here. Real nice hike. I had some sort of a GPS malfunction and I was not able to save my hiking track, but from the video call outs I made, I went back and then using Garmin Basecamp, I estimated the stats like this. I'll put this in the video. It was about 7.8 miles total. That includes all my wandering around and so forth. About 6 hours of hiking time. I started about 9:30 in the morning and I didn't get back to my car until about 3:30. And the elevation, I estimated 1,300 feet. To tell you the truth, I think it's probably more than that with all my up and down and little side trips that I made and so forth. Real nice hike, but this is not a family-friendly hike. Don't take your family on this. If you take a friend, make sure you take somebody who's an experienced hiker. And that's the hike for today.